If you resonate with ideas such as mind reprogramming, the law of attraction, success, wanting to have an abundant amount of success in your life, I'm going to share with you in a moment. I'm going to clip over to an interview I did last year. Now, this is me elaborating on quite a bit of context as to what's really going on. Why are we systematically dumbed down? Why do we go through school and not learn about how to use our minds? Why does it seem to be that only a little handful of people in the world really break through and have lasting success? So if you resonate with this, I think you're really going to like what I clip over to. And then at the end, I'm going to give you a little context into how we can connect further, because I have specific tools and I have a specific group of the like-minded people around the world who think like this and who have a huge track record over the past 5 years, really over the past 13 years. But for me personally, I can attest to the last 5 years of having life-changing results, having an amazing wife, amazing business, amazing kids. I live on my homestead. I'm out here in my office that I just rebuilt. Like, I read all these books. I can really design my life how I want it to be. It was not always this way. I used to struggle massively, and I used to buy the courses. I used to pay for mentorship, masterminds, all that. I'm telling you, most of that stuff becomes irrelevant. And when you watch this video, I think it's going to make a lot of sense. All right. So I'll come back in at the end just to close it out with some practical steps you can take if you're interested in learning more about what I go into.
Ever seen Century of the Self? I mean, that was a big one that changed things for me. So then I'm going through, learning from Ty, learning from Grant, learning from all these guys. And it was like, I saw that there were some people who would listen to them and they would just have boom, success. And there was a lot of people, like 98% of them, who just still struggle. And so it's not the fault of the teacher. It's the fact that we're still missing out on the fact of how the hell do you change your mind? And especially with where the world is headed. I mean, you have AI, automation, people are still sleeping on that. I mean, we're still in the baby phase of what's actually going to happen with AI, automation, robotics. It's a very different world that we're entering, and especially for those of you who have kids. I mean, this is vital. How come you have 10 million people, let's say, who have read Napoleon Hill, Think and Grow Rich, or his other books? How many of them actually got rich? Less than 1%? What's going on there? There's a fascinating audio by my friend Cameron. I don't have time to get into that specifically, but he explains how this whole idea of the law of attraction is so misunderstood. I mean, you see it, like, again, The Secret. How many people have watched The Secret? How many people have read Think and Grow Rich? And they're still broke. And they try hard. It's not like they're then just sitting on their ass going, oh yeah, well, I'm just gonna meditate and hope that, magically money rains from the sky. It's like a lot of people actually then also go work hard. Like work ethic, at least here in America, people still got some work ethic. I mean, there are a lot of people too who have the entitlement attitude, but people will learn about law of attraction. They start pushing themselves. They actually want to change, but guess what happens? They get to a certain level of income and then they hit it and then they sabotage themselves. So even with that, right? Even with having this knowledge and wisdom and everything, you're still hitting a wall. Now, we're at this very interesting time where for me, I'm realizing, okay, I have put in so much blood, sweat, and tears. I've built businesses. I mean, I've been surrounded by guys who are making 10, 20, 30 million. Some guys through e-commerce, selling the most random shit. And I'm like, why are you cracking the code so well? And me and a lot of the people around me are still struggling. And it became exposed to me that there's a specific tool you can use to reprogram your mind so you can actually become really freaking smart. And especially with where the world's headed, being smart is probably the most important thing. I mean, being smart and having basic principles. You got to have both, because you can be really smart, you can be an asshole, and then you're going to fuck yourself over. Or you could be smart and have principles and realize the common sense of like, hey, we got to actually look out for people, because if we don't look out for people, we're going to end up in some weird dystopian future. Like, you ever see the Hunger Games or the Matrix? I mean, that's a future gone wrong. That's a future without principle. It's where we still allow this weird, dynamic. And what people don't realize is at the core of all of that, at the core of why society's fucked up, is education. I mean, the vast majority, back at the founding of America, and a lot of people don't know this, we had over a 90% literacy rate. People were very high vocabulary. There's a book that went around called Common Sense by Thomas Paine. Most people haven't read this. Most people don't even know there's a thing nowadays. And the Constitution. You ever read the US Constitution? It's very high vocabulary. And people nowadays have been systematically dumbed down. If you don't know this, you gotta do the research. And like Horace Mann is very interesting on the case study of this. John Taylor Gatto does a fascinating breakdown of this. But before you just go, study all that stuff, because without the context, you're not going to get it. So we've been systematically dumbed down, big time. Because guess what? The Rockefellers, the Rothschilds, all these different, elite groups, the Morgans, Carnegies, a lot of them pretend that they're all good and they got their foundations and stuff. Look at the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation. You think they're actually doing good, or is it a tax shelter? Right? There's a lot more to it. I'm not going to go into that here. I'm not even going to say some of these words because this is going to end up on YouTube, right? And you have to be careful about what you say. But there has been a systematic dumbing down of people because the design of school is not to create thinkers, it's to create workers, and that's been quoted. Go look it up. And so we've all been now programmed from a young age to look to an authority to tell us what's going on, to not think for ourselves, to not even be able to think for ourselves. Because if you miss those first 7 years of your life, you're in trouble. The first 7 years, there's phrases, it goes everywhere, but I believe it's the Jesuits who first said it, or it's been quoted by them. Give me a child for the first 7 years, and I will show you the man. Pretty common sense when you really look at it. Your parents' programming, or whoever raised you, got programmed into you, but also all the emotional charges to it. Their beliefs around money, their beliefs around relationships, their beliefs around what it takes to succeed. All of that got programmed into us. And now we're walking around with a bunch of outdated programming, basically programmed to be an employee, or if you're going to be an entrepreneur, to get up to a certain level of success, but not getting to the 10 million, 100 million, all that. And then you'll have these certain people who break through, and then you're like, oh my God, if they broke through, I can break through. Well, then why isn't everyone breaking through? It's kind of a cold, hard fact that you got to be really brutally honest with yourself. Like, if you were going to be really successful by now, you'd have some pretty clear telltale indicators of it. So for those people who can actually see this and you realize, like, hey, I do work really hard and I really do want to succeed, and I'm, putting in the work to learn and study and all that, but it's still like not lining up.
So first, I hope you found that was informative. Now, for those of you who are actually serious, who genuinely want to change, you see you're stuck in many areas of your life. You might have some success, let's say in business, but your relationship is not thriving. Or you might have a lot of success in your relationships in your external world, but internally, you still have some unresolved trauma, some stuff from your childhood that you got to reprogram. If this resonates with you, I have a bunch of other trainings I can send you. But first, what I have found is most helpful is you should book a time in my calendar. I will have my link below. Book a time and let's chat. Because based on our conversation, it just needs to be a little 15, 20-minute chat. I want to get to know you. I want to get to know where you're actually stuck and what you're attempting to make happen. Because if I can have that, I can share a lot of cool things with you, but it's always going to be custom based on what you need. And the reason why I do this is because I'm financially set. I don't have to worry about money. I have my wife and my kids and our homestead and our awesome community. My goal now is to find all the other people in the world who are into this kind of thing. Because as I hinted at the video, if we're not careful, we're going to create some messed up dystopian future. We are going full speed ahead with AI development and robotics and all that stuff. I am here to create a way better future for my kids, for your kids, for the future generations. I know that sounds like a really bold statement, but I mean it with every ounce of my being. Okay? So if you resonate with this, if you can tell that this is different than anything you've heard before, if you can hear the sincerity in my voice, let's connect, okay? So book a time in the calendar. Don't miss it, because I specifically have times set aside for connecting with cool people like you. And I have a network also of like 200 people I can introduce you to. So maybe I don't resonate with you fully, or maybe you don't like how I talk or the fact that I swear sometimes, whatever. Okay, I have a whole network of people too, but I think deep down, if you got to this far in the video, it makes sense. Let's connect, book a time in my calendar, and we can go way deeper on all this. All right, so I look forward to meeting you. And I also hope you have an awesome day. See ya.